Did you know Rome wasn't conquered by barbarians first? It was bankrupted. Long before invaders ever breached its borders, Rome's massive economy was already collapsing from the inside. This is the story of how an empire that ruled the world financially destroyed itself. At its absolute peak, the Roman Empire was an economic powerhouse. Think about it. Its economy powered massive, invincible armies, sprawling cities that were wonders of the ancient world, and global trade routes that stretched across continents, from the misty shores of Britain all the way to the markets of the Middle East. Gold and silver, the lifeblood of this empire, flowed freely through its veins. Roman coins weren't just currency. They were a symbol of trust and stability, accepted and valued everywhere. Rome didn't just dominate territory, it controlled the entire financial system of the ancient world. But maintaining this unprecedented level of dominance came with an astronomical price tag. Imagine the sheer cost. Endless wars on multiple fronts to expand and defend the empire. Massive infrastructure projects, like the aqueducts and roads that still stand today, required constant funding. And on top of that, the government had to keep its massive population happy with public spending, a system often called bread and circuses. All of this relentlessly drained the imperial treasury. The coffers were emptying, and the emperors were getting desperate. Faced with a looming financial crisis, Roman leaders made a fateful, critical decision. A decision that would set the empire on a path to ruin. They started to debase the currency. What does this mean? They began secretly mixing the pure silver in their coins with cheaper, less valuable metals like copper. This allowed them to mint more coins from the same amount of silver, effectively creating money out of thin air. It was a short-term fix for a long-term problem. With each new batch of coins, the real value of the Roman denarius dropped, even though it looked the same. At first, nobody really noticed. The coins looked and felt the same. The markets kept running, the soldiers got paid, and life went on. The system seemed to be holding up, but you can't cheat economic reality forever. Slowly, insidiously, prices began to rise. A loaf of bread that costs 1 coin now cost 2, then 3. Merchants and citizens started to realize their money wasn't buying as much as it used to. Confidence, the bedrock of any financial system, began to crack. And then, what started as a trickle of rising prices turned into a flood. Inflation exploded. The value of Roman money plummeted. People lost all trust in the currency. Imagine going to the market with a bag full of coins, only to find they were practically worthless. Trade, which had once flourished across the empire, slowed to a crawl. Why sell your goods for money that would be worthless tomorrow? The entire economic engine of Rome began to sputter and die. The crisis hit the common people the hardest. Farmers, the backbone of the Roman agricultural economy, found themselves in an impossible situation. Their taxes were demanded in coins, but the value of the crops they sold was collapsing. Many simply abandoned their land because the tax burden became unbearable. This created food shortages, making the problem even worse. How did the government respond? Not by fixing the currency, but by doubling down on their failed policies. To compensate for the worthless money and the shrinking tax base, they raised taxes even higher. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Roman middle class. The artisans, the merchants, the small landowners, the very people who had provided the stability and prosperity of the empire, completely crushed under the weight of hyperinflation and crippling taxes. Here's the great irony. Rome could still field armies and fight wars. It still had the military might to look powerful on the outside. But it could no longer afford peace. The internal economic rot was far more dangerous than any external enemy. As the economy collapsed, so did the very foundations of the empire. Think about the domino effect. Soldiers on the frontiers went unpaid for long periods. Their loyalty, once sworn to the emperor and the state, began to erode. Why fight for an empire that couldn't even pay you? Many legions started declaring their own generals as emperors, leading to devastating civil wars. Corruption became rampant. Officials would demand bribes and extort the population just to get by. The once mighty defenses of the empire weakened, not because Rome suddenly lacked enemies, but because it lacked the resources and the political will to maintain them. So, when the Goths, Vandals, and other groups finally began to push across the borders in force, they found a different Rome. It wasn't the strong, unified, and resilient empire of Augustus or Trajan. It was a hollowed-out shell. Rome wasn't defeated by overwhelming force alone. It was already broken from within, rotted by decades of financial mismanagement. The lesson from Rome's economic collapse is simple, and it's absolutely timeless. Financial gimmicks and currency manipulation might seem like an easy solution, but they inevitably destroy the most valuable asset of all: trust. And once trust in a system disappears, rebuilding it is a monumental, almost impossible task. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it certainly warns us. The echoes of Rome's fall can still be heard today, reminding us that the strength of a nation is built not just on its armies, but on the stability of its economy and the trust of its people. Thank you for watching. If you found this dive into history valuable, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories from the past that shape our present. See you in the next one.